It's Richie, fan of football 813. I'm here with your in-depth Week 3 previews and my predictions. So here we go. Thursday's game, Boston College Eagles against the Wake Forest Demon Deacons. Should be an even game, back and forth. You got A.J. Dillon running back for Boston College. You got the freshman quarterback Sam Hartman for Wake Forest. It should be a good game. I'm going to go with Boston College for that. Tennessee Tech 1AA taking on Utah State. The Utah State Aggies, all they did was drop 60 last week. Utah State wins that one, I think. The Friday game, Georgia State Panthers at the Memphis Tigers. Memphis Tigers, their offense is usually a little too good. I think Memphis will win that one. Brady White at quarterback over there. Going into the Saturday games, Oklahoma Sooners take on Iowa State. Kyler Murray at quarterback for Oklahoma has looked way too good. Their offenses look strong. Iowa State kind of struggled last week. I think Oklahoma will win that one. You got the Kent State Golden Flashes taking on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Penn State, Trace McSorley, possible Heisman candidate. Miles Sanders at running back. That'd be too much. Penn State, I'm going with that one. With Penn State there. UCF Knights going into North Carolina take on the Tar Heels. UCF struggled a little bit. They won 38-0 last week, but Mackenzie Milton did not look good. He threw 3 interceptions. You got to correct them. But North Carolina, they've looked poor, very poor on offense. I think UCF should win easily. At the very least, they should win. It may be close, depends on how Milton plays, really. That's mostly what it comes down to. But I think UCF wins this game. You got the Miami Hurricanes taking on the Toledo Rockets. That'll be interesting. Miami put up 77 last week against Savannah State. Toledo is normally one of the better teams in the MAC. They have a good offense. They got a good receiving core. Toledo could take this. Watch out, Miami. But you know what? I'm going to go with Miami. Here, Rhode Island 1AA team taking on the UConn Huskies. Should be too much for Rhode Island to do. I think UConn wins this one. You got the Troy Trojans going into Nebraska to take on the Cornhuskers. Nebraska, they look good in their first game under Scott Frost. They lost, but they lost only 33-28, and that was with a true freshman quarterback, A.J. Martinez. He had over 100 yards rushing, over 180 passing. He was injured, but he should be okay. Troy is one of those teams in the Sun Belt. They're usually one of the better ones. They won 10 games last year. Nebraska, you better be on that upset alert, but I'm going to go with Nebraska with this one. Hawaii Rainbow Warriors taking on the Army West Point Black Knights. Man, Hawaii's got to go from Hawaii all the way to New York for this. The Army's got that triple option, but Cole McDonald, the quarterback for Hawaii, he's got 13 touchdown passes to 0 interceptions in that run and shoot offense so far through 3 games. They're passing it all over the place, putting up points like nothing. I think Hawaii wins that one, but watch out there. Florida State Seminoles taking on Syracuse Orange. I'm gonna go with Cuse, not because I dislike FSU, but FSU struggled the first 2 games, and Syracuse, they've been putting up yards and points. Eric Dungy at quarterback, he can run and throw. I feel like FSU, man, they gotta turn up that offense a little bit. I think Syracuse wins. Rutgers Scarlet Knights taking on the Kansas Jayhawks. The Jayhawks actually won last week. Rutgers didn't look good, but they were playing Ohio State. I went back and forth with this one, but I'm picking Rutgers for that. You got the Ball State Cardinals from the MAC taking on the Indiana Hoosiers. This could go back and forth. Indiana, they're 2-0. Ball State, they'll almost beat Notre Dame. They only lost 24-16. They got a pretty good quarterback at Ball State with Riley Neal. They got 2 running backs, each over 1,000 yards in the last 2 years. I'm actually going with Ball State for that little upset there over a Big Ten team. And then you got the Temple Owls going into Maryland, the Maryland Terrapins. Temple's not look good. Maryland, they're 2-0. They got a pretty good quarterback, they had a good running game, good offense. I think Maryland moves to 3-0 there and they win. You got 1AA Murray State taking on Kentucky. The Kentucky Wildcats, you know what, congratulations. They beat the Gators for the first time in 31 years this past weekend. Benny Snell Jr. running all over people. Their quarterback running all over, passing all over. I think Kentucky wins this. You got the UTEP Miners. They went 0-12 last year. They're not looking good this year. They're taking on the Tennessee Volunteers. I'm going to go with Tennessee for that. I think the Volunteers win win that one. You got the ECU Pirates taking on the Virginia Tech Hokies. ECU, they killed North Carolina this last week, put up 41, 41-19. Virginia Tech put up 62 this last weekend. I don't know. The quarterback for ECU is looking good. Virginia Tech, they're solid, a really, really good top 25 team. They can't look past ECU. ECU could come out and surprise them. I'm going with Virginia Tech for that one, but you're an upset alert. Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets against the Pittsburgh Panthers. It's a good ACC game, but Georgia Tech, man, they ran for 400 yards last week against USF. I think Georgia Tech will win this one. You got the Tulane Green Wave against the UAB Blazers. Tulane has a version of the option. It's more of a spread option. It's balanced. They can run on you. They got a pretty decent quarterback. UAB's got a nice offense as well. This could go back and forth. Could be a bit of a shootout, maybe in the high 20s and the 30s or so. But I'm going with Tulane to win that game. You got 1AA UC Davis taking on Stanford. Stanford Cardinal, they beat USC last weekend. Bryce Love actually broke out a little bit. I think Stanford should pretty well have this game in hand by halftime, and they win. The Vanderbilt Commodores from the SEC taking on the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Notre Dame struggled last week against Ball State. Vanderbilt, they're 2-0. They look pretty decent. This could be an upset, and I'm calling for it. I'm going to go Vanderbilt. Going to take on Notre Dame and beat them in Notre Dame. I might regret it. I might look stupid. I might look like a genius, whatever. Vanderbilt, you know what? I got you. I think you got this one. You got the Ohio Bobcats, one of the best teams from the MAC, taking on the Virginia Cavaliers. Bryce Perkins at Virginia. He runs, he passed, 291 passing, 231 rushing so far in the first two games. Ohio's got a good offense. They can run, pass, do whatever. Ohio could win this one. I'm gonna go with Virginia, but you know what? I might be coming back next week saying how Ohio won this, but I'm going with Virginia. Georgia Southern's got a triple option. They're taking on the Clemson Tigers. Clemson escaped with one against A&M this last week. If they're not ready, Georgia could surprise them, but that would be a pretty big upset. I'm going to go with Clemson in this one. You got the BYU Cougars taking on the Wisconsin Badgers. Man, Jonathan Taylor went off last week, ran for 253. The Cougars have a good defense. They got a solid team. They could surprise. They could go into Wisconsin and upset them, but that'll be an upset alert notice, but I'm going with Wisconsin with that. One of the games of the day, the LSU Tigers taking on the Tigers from Auburn. This could go back and forth. You got Jarrett Stidham at quarterback for Auburn. You got LSU Nick Brossette run for 262 in the first two games. You got the Auburn running game. You got Joe Burrow looked pretty decent last week at quarterback for LSU. I'm going to Auburn this time, but man, it's a coin flip. You take whoever, you got all that NFL talent on that field, but Auburn, I think you take it. One of the West Virginia, Will Grier going up for Heisman. West Virginia Mountaineers taking on the NC State Wolfpack. They got Ryan Finley, who's a former Boise State guy. He's also an NFL prospect. Will Grier, he put up some ungodly numbers again last week. You could have 4 touchdown passes from both quarterbacks this week, but I'm going with West Virginia to win this game. One of the games I'm looking forward to the most, Boise State going into Oklahoma State. Boise State always has a good offense. Oklahoma State always has a good offense. They pass it up and down the field. You got Brett Ripien at Boise State setting all kinds of Boise State records, which is saying a lot because their quarterbacks toss for millions of yards all the time. You know what? I'm pulling the trigger with this. I'm going Boise State. I think they go into the Big 12. I think they show the world that they may be the best group of 5 team. Them or UCF, they're going to go back and forth for it. I think that Boise State wins this one. Let's see. The Southern Methodist Mustangs are going against the Michigan Wolverines. Michigan, they poured on some points this last weekend. Southern Methodist normally has a decent offense, but I think Michigan wins this one. Cron Higdon got it going for a running back for Michigan. Southern Methodist, Ben Hicks, a quarterback. He's okay, but Michigan wins. Southern Miss, Golden Eagles, Appalachian State. Appalachian State, their quarterback last week was 14 of 14. He did not miss a pass last game. Southern Miss, they have a good passing attack. This could go back and forth, but I'm going to go with Appalachian State. They got the running game. They got the quarterback. They got the win. Miami of Ohio Redhawks from the MAC taking on the Minnesota Golden Gophers. This could be this couldn't be an upset. I think Minnesota wins this one. They have a decent team overall. Miami of Ohio has a pretty good quarterback in Gus Ragland. They could surprise, but I think Minnesota wins. 1AA Lehigh taking on Navy. Navy triple option. They beat Memphis last week. I think Navy wins that pretty easily. Malcolm Perry had 166 yards rushing last game. Central Michigan Chippewas against the Northern Illinois Huskies. A pretty good MAC game. Both are 0-2, but I think both will be there at the end in the MAC. I think Northern Illinois, they got Sutton Smith, a defensive end, one of the top DEs in the country. He had 14 sacks last season, led the nation. I think Northern Illinois, they should be good and they should win this game. You got USF Bulls taking on Illinois at a neutral site field in Chicago. How is it neutral site when you're Illinois in Chicago and USF is going to Chicago to play a team from Illinois? But yeah, it's neutral site. Whatever. USF wins. Blake Barnett has looked great the first two games he's going. They got it. Duke Blue Devils taking on the Baylor Bears. Both are 2-0. Baylor's look good. Duke look good. Duke, their quarterback, Daniel Jones, is hurt. He may be out. If not, Duke will keep it close. I think it'll probably be a good game. I think Baylor, either way, I think Baylor wins this game. You got the Colorado State Rams taking on the Florida Gators. The Colorado State Rams, they were down to Arkansas, the SEC Arkansas Razorbacks last week by 18. Colorado State stormed back. They won 34-27. They look really good on offense. KJ Carter-Staniel, a quarterback, put up 389. Passing, the Gators did not look good against Kentucky, losing for the first time to Kentucky in 31 years. Felipe Franks, he looked okay later. The Gators just did not look good, but I gotta go with the Gators with that one. I'm really actually nervous about it as a Gator fan because Colorado State could come in and win, but I'm gonna go with the Gators. You got the UTSA, Texas San Antonio Roadrunners taking on Kansas State Wildcats. Kansas State has not looked good at all, but I think Kansas State will win that one. North Texas, Mean Green taking on the Arkansas Razorbacks. As I talked a minute ago, Arkansas, they faced a really good offense in Colorado State and lost last week. North Texas, they got Mason Fine at quarterback who threw for 400 yards last weekend. Arkansas, they don't know what they're doing at quarterback. They're still able to put up some points. North Texas can put up some points. This could be an upset. Watch out, Arkansas. But I'm going to go with Arkansas with this. I think the Razorbacks taking it in this game. You got 1AA Wofford taking on Wyoming. Wofford usually has a triple option, which is dangerous. But Wyoming Cowboys, they should come out with a victory there. They look kind of this year, but they should win. You got Eastern Kentucky taking on Bowling Green. Bowling Green's 0-2, but they look pretty good the first two games. They got Jarrett Daggett at quarterback, doing well. They got some really good receivers, a good offense. They should win that one pretty easy. You got the Houston Cougars taking on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. This could be a shootout. Houston put up 45 last week on Arizona. Derek King passed for 4 touchdowns and ran for 2. Texas Tech dropped 77 points last week. Their freshman quarterback, Alan Bowman, looked really good. I think I'm going with Texas Tech on this, but this could go either way. Both teams should score in the 40s. Who knows? San Jose State Spartans taking on Oregon Ducks. Oregon, Justin Herbert at quarterbacks looked really good. They dropped 62 last week. San Jose State has not looked good at all. Oregon should have 40 by halftime. You got the 1AA New Hampshire taking on the Colorado Buffaloes. Colorado's looked really good. They're 2-0. Steven Montez, the quarterbacks, had put up a bunch of numbers. the really good numbers so far. Pass for 689 and 7 touchdowns in the first 2 games. They beat Nebraska last week. They should take that with no problem. 1AA Idaho State taking on the Cal Golden Bear. Cal is 2-0. Their defense looks good. Their offense doesn't look great, but they got a good running back, Patrick Laird. They got some decent quarterbacks. They should win that one. You got Liberty taking on Norfolk State. Stephen Buckshot Calvert, the quarterback for Liberty. He can put up a bunch of yards. They got Antonio Gandy Golden at wide receiver, 1,000-yard receiver last year. I think Liberty should win that one. Next team, Old Dominion Monarchs taking on the Charlotte 49ers. Both teams kind of Old Dominion, though, I think come out with a victory in this one. Bethune-Cookman 1AA taking on Florida Atlantic Owls. Florida Atlantic, their quarterback Chris Roberson set the world on fire last weekend. Passed for 471, 3 touchdowns. They got Devin Singletary at running back. I think Florida Atlantic should win easy. An interesting MAC game, Eastern Michigan taking on Buffalo. Eastern Michigan upset Purdue last week from the Big Ten. Buffalo beat Temple last week. It could go back and forth. You got Tyree Jackson for Buffalo at quarterback. You got Anthony Johnson, one of the best receivers in the country. I'm actually going with Buffalo to win that. All right, the Alabama Crimson Tide taking on Ole Miss. Ole Miss put up 76 points last week. Alabama's look good as usual. Ole Miss has looked great in offense. This is one of those games where a good offense comes in and Alabama struggled in their recent history under Nick Saban. I think Alabama wins, but Ole Miss, man, that could be the shockers this year. Watch out for that one. Upset alert, Alabama, but I think they win. The Campbell Camels, yes, that's their name, 1AA. They're playing the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers. Coastal Carolina won last week in 2AB, 147-24. They had a really good game. Their offense looks to be clicking a little bit. I think Coastal Carolina wins that. The Texas State Bobcats are taking on the South Alabama Jaguars. Texas State, they have a pretty good dual threat. Willie Jones III. They should win that one. I'm going with Texas State there. Arkansas State and the Tulsa Golden Hurricane. I think those Red Wolves of Arkansas State, they got Justin Hansen at quarterback. He puts up great numbers. I think this could be a bit of a shootout, but I think Arkansas State would be too much. I think they win in the end. Alabama A&M taking on the Cincinnati Bearcats. The Bearcats look pretty good so far. They're 2-0. They look better than they have last year. I think they moved to 3-0 with a pretty easy win. They got Michael Warren, the second at running back, who's put up over 233 yards rushing the first 2 games, 5 touchdowns, looking really good. 1AA Delaware State taking on Western Michigan. Western Michigan should win. They have a pretty decent team. They got a good running game, decent quarterback. They should win. Oregon State Beavers and the Nevada Wolfpack. This could be a good, pretty good game. Nevada's got a good offense. Oregon State's blown up on offense the first 2 games this year under their new head coach. This could go back and forth. Both teams could go into 30. I think Oregon State, though. I think Oregon State wins that one. The Georgia Bulldogs taking on the Middle Tennessee State Blue Raiders. Georgia should not struggle. Brent Stockstill, who's the quarterback for Middle Tennessee, is one of the better quarterbacks in the group of 5, but Georgia should win. And you got the Louisiana Raging Cajun taking on the Mississippi State Bulldogs. Nick Fitzgerald is back at quarterback for Mississippi State. Louisiana's got a pretty decent team, but I think Mississippi State should be too much. And they win. Marshall Thunder are taking on the South Carolina Gamehawks. Marshall's look good. Their offenses look pretty good. South Carolina struggled. They lost bad to Georgia. This could be an upset. Marshall could go in there and win. I'm picking South Carolina, but you're on upset alert. Louisiana Monroe taking on Texas A&M. Monroe is 2-0. They look good. A&M almost beat Clemson. I think it'll be too much. I think A&M wins this one. The Missouri Tigers taking on the Purdue Boilermakers. It could be a close game, but Purdue, they're 0-2. They got upset by Eastern Michigan last week. Missouri, Drew Lock, he's looked good. The first 2 games, I think they win. Missouri wins. Northern Iowa, 1AA taking on the Iowa Hawkeyes from the Big Ten. Iowa has not looked very good, but they're 2-0. They have a good defense. I think that they should win pretty easily, maybe like 27-10, 37-14, something like that. Kind of just a solid game. Western Kentucky Hilltoppers taking on the Louisville Cardinals. Western Kentucky hasn't looked good, but neither is Louisville. Louisville won last week, but they got some situations at quarterback between Jawan Pass and Emily Cunningham. But I think Louisville should win this game. The UMass Minutemen take on the Florida International Golden Panthers. UMass has a good offense. Florida International has looked good. They won last week. This could go either way. Andrew Ford, a quarterback for UMass. James Morgan, who's a transfer from Bowling Green for FIU. I think Florida International wins that game. You got the Akron Zips taking on the Northwestern Wildcats. Akron, they're okay, but I think Northwestern, their running back, Jeremy Larkins, put up really good numbers the first 2 weeks. Fringe Heisman candidate, maybe. At least one of the better Big Ten running backs. Northwestern wins. Alright, one of the games of the day, Ohio State Buckeyes go to take on the TCU Horned Frogs. This could be a shootout, should be a great game. TCU has always got it. Their offense is usually good. Their defense is usually great. But Ohio State, I gotta go with them. Their quarterback, Dwayne Haskins, been on fire the first 2 games. They got Mike Weber and J.K. Dobbins at running back. Both of them are 1,000-yard rushers. I think Ohio State ends up winning this game. But, TCU, that'll be a really close game. But I'm looking forward to that one. Ohio State should win. USC Trojans taking on the Texas Longhorns. USC did not look good last week. They got a true freshman quarterback in JT Daniels. Texas hasn't looked good either. This is an interesting game. I'm going to go with Texas on this one. It'll be a bit of an upset, but I think Texas will win. New Mexico Lobos taking on the New Mexico State Aggies. New Mexico's actually looked pretty good on offense so far. They gave Wisconsin a little bit of a battle early on before losing, and I think New Mexico probably blows out the Aggies in this, so I think the Lobos win that. Eastern Washington 1AA taking on the Washington State Cougars. Eastern Washington is usually one of the better 1AA teams. They've beaten the Washington State Cougars a year or 2 ago. They beat 1A teams. That being said, Gardner Minshew, who's a transfer from ECU, he's the quarterback for Washington State now. He's lit it up the first 2 games. I think he does it third game in a row. I say Washington State wins. The Washington Huskies taking on Utah Utes, going to Sac Lake City. Utah has a good defense. Washington has a good offense and defense. This could be a good game. It could go to wire. It could be an upset. I'm going to go with Washington, though, but watch out. You're an upset alert, Washington. Prairie View A&M, 1AA taking on UNLV Rebels. UNLV, they got a quarterback, Roger. They got Lexington Thomas, the running back, one of the best in the Mountain West. He's going to win, and they're gonna win that. Fresno State Bulldogs taking on the UCLA Bruins. Fresno State, they almost beat Minnesota last week at Minnesota. UCLA is not look good under Chip Kelly. Fresno State should go in there and beat them. I'm actually going to go with UCLA. I think maybe they turn it around this week. If not, Chip Kelly's got some stuff to work on, but you know what? I'm going to go with UCLA. Arizona State, they had a big upset last week. They beat number 15 Michigan State at home. Arizona State's in the top 25 now. They're taking on San Diego State, who I've been touting. Juwan Washington at running back. He's put up great numbers. I think he puts up numbers again, and I'm pulling the trigger. Upset. San Diego State wins this one. And then the final game, Southern Utah 1AA takes on Arizona Wildcats. Arizona's looked terrible the first 2 games. Khalil Tate was a Heisman candidate. He might not even be the starting quarterback for Arizona. I mean, that's a little bit of stretch. He's still pretty good. I think Arizona should win that game. So those are my Week 3 previews for this week for every game. I hope you liked it. Check out our YouTube channel. It'll be somewhere there. Yeah, Fan of Football 813. Go to Twitter at FFootball813. Go to our other videos, like, subscribe, do all that kind of good stuff. Peace.